7:14. Sorry about the rush morning update, folks. I had it set on 45. It should have been on 33, but we got that fixed. Anyway, we want to talk a little amateur radio. We've got Stephen Proctor and Jimmy Mercer. Gentlemen. Oh, and Jerry. Sorry, Jerry.
Hello.
Howdy.
Good morning.
Amateur radio. And let me explain. Amateur radio is a hobby, but we have in this country one of the most, I'm going to say the largest underground security devices in place in our ham radio operators.
Okay.
Gentlemen, welcome.
True. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning.
Who wants to start?
Well, with that lead in, Jimmy and I are going to share some things from the emergency side of the house, and the that point. It's amateur radio is the most dependable means of communication in the world, bar none. And I won't go into the science of it, but basically, for a small amount of money, you can have a device in your hand that will literally talk around the world.
Yeah.
There's something called Echo Link. There's other things that can be done, and this is not the place for all of that. We invite anyone to come and be tested. Jimmy can talk to you about that in a minute. Again, from the emergency side of the house, amateur radio is the go-to group for emergency management in times of crisis. For example, the high dollar 800 megahertz radios that are used by a lot of the emergency services organizations. From my experience as a member of that group, when you have a disaster or an emergency in place that taxes that system, those 800 trunking radios, which are the Cadillac of communications, will go down. They will drop calls. That you'll be talking to someone and you'll be, well, yeah, that pig came back down the other day, and you'll just hear all kinds of weird things. So, again, it's an excellent system, but amateur radio, when you key up and you are talking with someone very, very seldom, with the exception of some atmospheric interferences, will you have any disruption whatsoever. The Walter Cronkite, some of the older folks in the audience might remember that name. Walter Cronkite was a ham.
Was he really?
He was a ham.
Really?
And on his sailboat, he used to get out there with his ship to shore and so forth and talk, and I cannot remember his call sign, but he was a very big advocate for ham radio, and it was a very important part of our government. Nowadays, it's not exactly looked at as important, but when the chips are down, the government knows where to go.
I'm almost thinking if this government would even want amateur radio the way they're running things.
Well, I can't argue with that point, but with that, I'll pass it over to Jimmy because Jimmy has a lot of things to say as well.
Well, I guess the best place to start would be at the beginning, and that's getting a license. The process involves passing a 35 question exam, and then once that's done, then you'll be assigned a call sign. And we have an exam team here in Mountain Home headed up by Phil Waters, KD5IV, and we give exams every other month. And we just had an exam session this past weekend. So our next scheduled one is going to be in January, second Saturday. And study guides, materials available on the internet, or you can order a book and be able to study for the exam. And as I say, 35 questions, and we give the tests right here. And it's the technician test. The technician exam is the entry level into the world of ham radio, and then you can just go as far as you want.
Do they still? Is it the novice class still enacted?
No. There are only 3 classes of license now: technician, general, and amateur extra. And so the technician is the entry level, where everybody has to start.
That allow VOX?
Yes.
What about code? They still do
no code. No more code.
Really?
Several years ago.
It's not required.
Yeah.
But you can do. Is there still key
operators?
operators?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anyone who wants to do code is
excuse me for a minute, Jimmy. Sure. Is the book Now You're Talking still what we consider? I'm a general class, so I've been doing it for a little while. Is Now You're Talking still the beginners guide, if you
I
will.
believe that's true. That would give a lot of information.
Looking on the internet, it's called Now You're Talking. I cannot remember, obviously. I think it's ARRL puts it out. I'm not sure.
American Radio Relay League.
Yes,
Right.
sir.
Yep.
Thank you.
Huh.
Okay, now y'all are going to have to not talk over some of our heads here. I don't know what Vox.
VOX is
Code.
voice operated talking.
Okay.
And amateur radio Vox is just voice, but a lot of times VOX, you have devices that won't work unless you talk. When there's no noise, they shut off when you talk. So sometimes clear your throat and it turns on, then you can talk. Called VOX.
Okay. And code.
Okay, Morse code.
Oh, okay.
You know, they still have the Morse code, and you've got key operators. You can tap the key, or you can go side to side. You can, you get it to where you can go side to side with dot and dashes. And I mean, those guys can send some code, going side by side.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. But see, even Morse code, that's still. Do the terrorists know Morse code?
Oh, yes.
Do they?
I'm
Oh,
sure
sure.
I'm sure
As a
some
matter of
do.
fact, in World War II, we tried to determine the best way to talk to one another, and they finally, and forgive me if I get this wrong out there in radio land, those of you who know the facts as clearly as history puts them, I believe it was the Arapaho language, and they had Arapaho Indians at key locations for high sensitive. And then eventually it
code talkers?
spread out. Code. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for
remember
that, Jimmy.
Navajo, I think maybe it was.
Yeah. I
Maybe
thought
it was
Navajo.
Navajo. I knew it was something O.
It's always good to get
You're
part
on
of
the
it
right
right.
track.
But yes, it's a good group of people. Men, women, and children. Children have a great time at it. And remember this: if there is a situation where our families are in dire straits, and especially if it's a community-wide situation, you want your child to know how to pick up, just like a phone. Children nowadays know how to pick up the phone and dial 911.
Right.
Yeah.
If you have an amateur radio in your house, whether you have taken the test or not, at least be teaching them, because Part 95 of SEC rules say that for the protection of life and property, in that order, that anyone can pick up an amateur radio piece of equipment and use it, again, for the protection of life and property.
Wow.
Yeah.
So-
With no license required for that particular.
As a matter of fact, I'm reading a history book right now. It's the assassination of President Kennedy. When Officer J.D. Tippit was shot after the assassination, a citizen got in on the car radio, the police radio, and radioed, said, police operator, we've got a shooting here. There's an officer down. And where's your location? And they said, Marcellus at something street. And so what's the number on the car? 10. Well, they knew it was number 78 J.D. Tippit. It was actually a citizen on the police radio
Yes.
that informed police that J.D. Tippit had been shot following the assassination of President Kennedy.
Yes, and I guarantee you, during an incident an event is something that's planned. A lot of people mistake those two words, incident and event. An event is a planned situation. An incident is exactly that. It's an emergency incident. So in an incident like that, anyone, again, can pick up an amateur radio, and during a situation, I guarantee you there'll be someone on that local repeater.
Yeah.
Which is what? We have, 2 or 3 here?
Yeah, we have
In the
two VHF and one UHF that belong to the club.
And
Jerry,
forgive
that's
me for
very
that.
high frequency and ultra high frequency.
I got that.
There you go. Yes, I'm new
Not
to
a
the area.
total idiot, but
My wife and I moved here from Florida and moved into Mountain Home July 1st. So I'm still catching up with exactly what we have
Sure.
here, and Jimmy is your local professional on that.
Okay, Jerry and I are sitting here, and I know what's going through his head because it's going through mine. We might ought to take this test and join this bunch, you know?
yeah, I was thinking about it. In fact, I met Alan Daugherty at the preparedness fair, and it was a very informative conversation we had, and that's what kind of piqued my interest, and that's why we're all here today.
Good.
Because it was very interesting.
I'll tell the story on the
appreciate
air real
that.
quick. Years ago, back in about 1962, when my dad was working at McDonnell Douglas Aircraft Corporation in St. Louis, A friend of his had a 1/4 watt ham set in his car, tube type. Back then you made your own radios. You can buy them, but the fun was building your own radio. At lunchtime, they pulled the little 2x4 out and keyed it up and talked. And they were talking to Santa Fe, New Mexico, on that 1/4 watt set, just as clear as we're talking right here. When you've got something that powerful, you can talk from St. Louis to Santa Fe, New Mexico on 1/4 of 1 watt.
Yes.
You've got a communication still. Now, I don't know what the wattages are nowadays, but anyway, you can form, I'm sure you've got a network, but you can take Mountain Home, Harrison, Paragould, Little Rock have a network. You can have Missouri and Arkansas. You can pattern a security network. And the point I want to make with amateur radio is we need more people.
Amen.
Yes,
Amen.
definitely.
That's right.
Definitely. We have a lot of amateurs licensed here in Mountain Home and Baxter County that once they get their license, we've never heard from them again.
Really?
Yeah. And so we need to get some of those folks involved. And we have a lot of folks within our club that are willing to assist, answer questions, help in any kind of way to get people back interested in being amateurs and helping us out.
I guess one question I have, it's not like going and buying a CB radio and the antenna. We need a little more equipment here to get into it. What is the kind of the cost factor?
You can get a handheld.
That's pretty close.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking like my property in Oakland, okay, a CB's not going to reach Mountain Home, where I would think that a ham system probably would. Am I right there?
It'd reach Mountain Home, Idaho.
Oh, there you go.
Actually,
in Moscow, Russia.
A handheld 5-watt portable radio with Echo Link
Oh, well, yeah, Echo Link.
will actually allow you to talk around the world.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's what new and improved technology has done with amateur radio. It's truly incredible, and it's not really given its due. It's just kind of a fun thing that's hanging out there just waiting for people to understand.
So what is the cost? That of a CB radio? Is that what we're looking at? $200?
You can literally get what was it? $50 the other day I saw.
Yeah, there are some.
Ken have one like that?
Some handhelds that you can get for around 50.
Wow.
But now, what you're talking about from Oakland, you probably need a little bit more than that. You'd probably need an outside antenna, or even a Yagi antenna, a beam antenna, in order to get. And you could probably get into Mountain Home with no problem on 5 watts.
But yeah, I mean, at that price, it seems like
Here's one right here for $37.15. A new Baofeng UV5RA
There you
two-way. Frequency 136, 174, 400, 480 megahertz band transceiver. There you have $37 right there.
so.
How you pronounce it? Baofeng?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
They haven't been around, I guess, too long, at least.
So it's priced where about anybody can get in, and you all have your own little club in this area?
Yeah, we have our Ozark Amateur Radio Club. K5OZK.net is the address.
Let me write that. Say it again.
K5OZK.net. And there's lots of good information on there, some contact information for various people in the club that everybody's willing to help wherever we can.
Do they use the K and the W for east and west of Mississippi like they used to?
No.
Really?
No. They may have used to, but
Yeah.
all that's out the window now. And
Well, I get to wonder about some of the radio stations, because you got WBAP in Dallas,
Well,
820
yeah,
AM that's
yeah.
west, but yet everything west is K. All of our.
they
but
always
you go,
make exceptions.
You go over into Illinois, we had WIBV, WIL, and all that stuff.
Uh-huh.
They had the W east of the river and K west of the river.
Yep, that used to be the case.
Yeah. Anyway, we are visiting with Stephen Proctor and Jimmy Mercer, the amateur radio. Is it the Amateur Radio Club of Mountain Home?
Mm-hmm.
Or
Ozark Amateur Radio Club.
Ozark Amateur Radio Club. And looks like we're going to get to visit a little while longer here, so stick around. We got the news coming up, and it looks like I think the sun was starting to peek from behind the clouds.
We'll take it.
We'll take it.
Absolutely.
Real quick, while the theme song's playing, don't forget the Twin Lakes Area Nativity Scene Contest. Christmas is time to celebrate Jesus' birth. Let's come together as a Christian community and put Christ back in Christmas. Give us a call here at the station. I'll give you more about this, but there's a participation form. We want as many businesses as possible in every city in the 2 counties to put out a nativity scene. We lost it on the courthouse square. We lost one. Let's gain another 1,000, folks. Join in the fun. Be right back. $7:35 on this. Jerry Hopper stopped by. Hey, give us a report, Jerry.
Well, it's a good report, Dale. I appreciate y'all helping us on this John 3:16 concert. And big fish fry. Boy, we had good catfish and even some chicken in there. We paid for 4 rooms, $7,000 a room on the Baxter County Faith House, and we've got promise of some more. We'll have some more coming in. I think we like 21,000 having the house paid for. I think we're going to make it.
That's wonderful.
Big deal.
Yeah.
Well,
Real quick, tell folks about John 3:16 Ministries.
John 3:16 is a spiritual boot camp for men with addictions, alcohol and drug addiction. And you know, we were talking the other day, Dale. Their slogan is what I like.
Mm-hmm.
We don't offer treatment. We offer cure. So
There you go.
Yeah.
and we had 117 of those boys out there with us Saturday night, running everywhere. It's amazing. It's like going to a revival.
I bet,
Awesome.
I bet it was fun.
Oh man,
I was thinking about you. I was sitting at Marconi's in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, having dinner with my boys over there. But I'm glad y'all had a good turnout.
Oh, it was nice. We fed, I don't know, somewhere around 700, I guess.
That's great.
And I was at the
great.
concert.
Oh, it was awesome. It was packed.
I bet it was good.
Yeah.
I bet it was good.
Well, all the groups and everyone. I told my wife it's kind of unusual. It's hard to give somebody a microphone because you don't know what's going to happen. But every person that said anything, it was perfect.
Excellent.
Yeah.
You know,
Sounded like a great evening.
it was.
Sounds like a God thing.
Yeah.
Say
Well,
the
Jerry, we're
least.
talking with, this is Stephen Proctor and Jimmy Mercer. We're talking a little amateur radio. Weren't you a ham operator at one time? Did you ever have
No.
a ham operator?
No, I had a CB one time.
Everybody had a CB.
Amen to that.
Yeah, Breaker 19.
Some of us
Smokey
had
the Bandit.
li-
Just a little above Smokey and the Bandit.
yeah. Some of us had linears too to talk around the United States.
And single side bands and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, remember that?
Yep. You
No.
even had to have a license
Oh, yeah.
to start with.
Yeah.
I had to pay $20 for a license to have a CB call sign way back in the 70s, I guess it was.
Yeah. Pull the microphone a little closer there. So,
All right.
Yeah, that's better.
How's that?
Good. Well, we're talking a little bit, and Jerry and Jerry, you all join in here. The importance of amateur radio in the United States. It's really another security device. It's really an underground because people don't know a lot about it. And Jimmy, just pick up where you left off. Let's talk about first. Let's recruit. Talk about, and the test is not that hard.
The test is not that hard.
It's going to be mainly law and ethics,
operations,
Operations.
that kind of thing. Yeah, it just kind of common sense things, and it's the technician test is very easy to pass, and that gets you in. Mm-hmm. And so then you can go whichever direction you want to, whatever your interest might be, and it's just limitless pretty much.
So the first level was what? What was the
Technician.
Technician, yes,
And the second, general.
general,
And what's the top?
extra, amateur extra.
And the licenses are good for 10 years. And I can't remember what the licenses cost.
It's not, I mean,
It's
Well,
minimal.
It's $15 fee for the exam, and then the licenses are. There's no charge for the license.
Is that right?
But they don't even
I
print.
can't
The
remember.
FCC doesn't print licenses anymore.
oh, they don't.
No, they won't even print you a license.
Really?
I think you can go on a website and print it yourself, but they don't print a license and send it to you anymore. So
Wow.
Cost-cutting factors, I'm sure.
I guess. Yeah.
yeah,
Print
that's
yourself,
the
maybe.
idea.
But don't let that fool the audience, because there are people that are listening, if you will. And when people get on there and abuse those privileges, then it'll eventually catch you, and then it will cost you, because the FCC does not play very well with others. They will chastise you greatly for that. And what I mean by that is getting on amateur radio and frequencies and using it for your business, for example. That's definitely a no-no. Getting on there using no call sign. Periodically, you have to use a call sign. You need to realize that it's not just for hey Bob, go down and pick up those eggs and some milk for us, and then just put it off. You have to let your call sign be known while you're speaking periodically.
Yep, that's not what it's for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Emergencies and communications to improve your local community base during emergency incidents is what amateur radio is about. It's a hobby. You can get on there and talk about.
It's also a public service.
It is.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And you can get on there and talk about, but you can't do it without your call sign.
Yep.
Without being licensed. And you'll eventually find yourself using it for a lot of things once you realize what these things can do. You can do a great deal.
Has there been any reports about the use of amateur radio during the 9/11 attacks? I think it was instrumental in New York City.
I'm sure it was.
Because if I remember correctly, Rudy Giuliani was relying heavily on amateur radio because
Exactly.
of the cell towers been knocked out. There's so much damage after the planes hit the Twin Towers
Yes.
that they relied so much on amateur radio.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Rudy Giuliani will tell you that in a New York Minute.
Yeah, no pun intended.
That they, of course, that they were very instrumental in keeping communications going for those emergency responders.
Oh, I got a text from Mike Stephen. He's captain, or he's a chief of fire department down at Pineville. FCC sends your link to print your license N5PFD. He said, whatever that is. Let's see.
That's
a call sign.
That's a call. Okay. Oh, that's his call sign. Okay. He says they send you a link so you can print your license.
I see.
Yeah,
Right.
That's what he's saying.
They
here.
send you something that is not it's not changeable. PFD, is that what you said?
Yeah. Apparently, what that is his call sign.
PFD is a format and is a internet format of products that are sent.
Well, I think that's his call sign.
But yeah, that's N5PFD.
because that's Pineville Fire Department.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now, if somebody does have a ham radio operation going, are you going to get on there and hear stuff like some albums being played?
No.
You better not.
Political?
Not allowed. That's
that's-
not what that's about.
Okay.
It's no. There's digital communications. We call it packet, but there's also voice communications, and that's the only two.
Oh, there's many digital modes available.
Right.
PSK31 and
Yes.
I couldn't begin to name them all, but there are many. We have some folks they don't like talking on a microphone, and so they can do ham radio with their computer keyboard.
And
Really?
that's
Really?
especially
Absolutely.
the handicap. Okay.
So anybody can do that with a keyboard and a little bit of an interface to their radio, and they're on the air.
Absolutely.
Well, when we were broadcasting, I was in Las Vegas and in Washington, D.C., we got a Skype channel.
Mm-hmm.
So my computer, I had a little mixer output into the computer. I had my microphones, can talk to my guests just like we're doing here, but it all went into a laptop just like Jerry has back over here. And we Skyped it into this channel here, and it's just like we're talking.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
People thought we were actually here in the studio, but no, one time we're in D.C., one time we're in Las Vegas doing the program. So that's interesting.
Nice.
Yeah. Wow. So what can we do to recruit younger people? We have a problem in our volunteer fire departments.
Mm-hmm.
We got a lot of volunteer fire departments where the youngest people are older than me. And people say I'm old.
Well, let me
Right, Jerry?
let me start by bringing up emergency management again here in Baxter County.
Yeah.
Jim Shashula, if I'm correct, saying that correctly, I believe, is his last name. I spoke to him at the Emergency Preparedness Fair, as well as Tina Cole, his assistant, and I think she's the safety officer here for the county. I'm not familiar with her title, but when you start looking at emergency management, their responsibilities and the things that they do, they have a program called CERT, C-E-R-T, which is short, an acronym for Community Emergency Response Teams. Yeah. Community Emergency Response Teams, or CERT, you'll see them in various areas. They usually have a bright green, OSHA-type green vest. It'll say CERT on the back. If you wander into an area and these people are asking you to do something, you need to consider, first of all, that their job is just as important as a police officer's. They are there functioning for an extension of law enforcement, fire department, emergency management, and the like. Now, I bring this up because the national the national program for CERT incorporates amateur radio as the key communication device for that group. And so there's many ways that you can incorporate amateur radio, and this is another arm of that. And again, emergency management, you can call them and talk to them about the CERT program, and we'll Tina, I believe, will be glad to share information and so
She was here
forth.
not too long ago, wasn't she?
Yes, she was.
Yeah.
And so with that, there's just so much that can be done with amateur radio. We can't stress that enough from an emergency standpoint. And from a family standpoint, let's focus on the family for a minute. We said earlier about everybody going to the store and just kind of daily chores, and that's all fine and good too. But again, you can't just pick it up and speak over it. But to recap what we said earlier, if you are teaching your child to use it and you are licensed, in an emergency, that child could pick that up and speak to someone and not be in any kind of difficulty in breaking the rules or those kinds of things.
And now you all meet the first Thursday. How's that work, Jimmy?
First Thursday, 7 o'clock, Salvation Army building, church building.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Good. Hold that thought, guys. Let's take a quick break. More with the amateur radio right after this. 7:50. Continuing our talk about amateur radio, also known as ham radio, and is probably one of the best kept secrets in the United States in the amount of security. And I remember, I'm thinking back now, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Rudy Giuliani, the mayor, actually had a ham radio. I think he's an operator. He was in D.C. with us. Yeah,
I couldn't tell you. There are a lot of famous people through the years that have been amateurs, and